a slot together Christmas tree. So today we're putting our Christmas trees up, and we've made a file for you to download and cut on your own CNC machine to create this really simplistic, nice looking slot together Christmas tree. So let's take a look in the software at the file.
Okay, so let's go and open up a file. So we've got the christmastree.crv file here. You can see I've got my two trees that we're going to slot together. I've got a series of stars for decorations, and here I've got two test pieces, and we'll come back to these shortly. Now, the first and most important thing to note here is that I am working with 0.475 inch material. Okay, so that is the thickness. So this file will only work for this thickness. If you're planning to cut this yourself using different thickness and material, then you must make sure that you alter all of the slot widths to match that of the material thickness that you plan to use. And so to help you with that, I've created a layer here called Slots for Editing. If we switch that on, you can see these two rectangular vectors here in red. Okay, so this is the exact height that we want. All you need to do is alter the width according to your own material thickness. So to do that, simply come over to Set Selected Object Size, undraw Link XY, as we're only altering the width here, and you could just simply put in Z equals, and it will calculate the width of that rectangle based on the material thickness that you've set in the job setup form. So once you've changed that, what you need to do then is create your fillets. So go into the fillet tool here. Make sure you enter in the tool radius that you plan to use. So you want to make sure you alter that here. And we're going to use the dog bone fillet. So you're just going to put one in each corner there, and then another one for the corners here. And that is your slots sorted out. Another thing to note here is that the slots finish exactly halfway up the actual triangular part of our tree, so that when the two line up, we're going to have a nice fit where they meet up at the top. Right then, now with any slot together project, you should always create test pieces before cutting out the main part, and this is just to ensure that you get the correct slot fit. So what do I mean by that? As you can see, I've got two squares here with a series of slots. So if we take a look at that, you can see that the width of the slot, if I just remove the fillets there, so if we just take that, so we're going to get rid of that fillet, and you can see that the width of that is 0.475, which matches that of my material thickness. And what I've done is I've copied that around all four sides of each one of those squares, created my fillets based on the radius of the tool that I'm using. So the tool that I'm using is a 1/4 inch end mill. So we'll go in here, put the radius, so 1/8 of an inch in there, put in my dog bone fillets like so, close out there. You can see I've got a series of test parts, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to apply different overcuts to some of these, so that we can take the test pieces off, move them around, check them for suitability, which fits best, and then whatever overcut that we've applied will then apply to the actual main tree itself. And this just really helps us save time, material, and ultimately money by just taking the time to create these test pieces, so we know which allowance works best, so we can apply it to the finished part. So let's go over to our toolpaths. You can see here I have 4 pocket tests, all with different values here, and these values represent how much I'm going to overcut that pocket to try and work out which overcut has the best fit when we slot the two parts together. So let's have a look at the first one. So we've got pocket test negative 0.005. So let's double click on that. Okay, so you can see I've got these two vectors highlighted here. We're cutting all the way through the material plus a little bit more just to ensure that we cut through the part. We're using a 1/4 inch end mill here. We're going to cut this in an offset strategy, and this is what I'm mostly focusing on here, and that's the pocket allowance. So this is where we apply an overcut. So we're just going to overcut it slightly by 0.005 in this case. So if I just close out, select that toolpath, put it into the solid preview, and if we just zoom in there, you can see everything that's purple is what will essentially be cut away, and you can see it's just cutting past our original vector there by this amount, which is 0.005. Okay, so do that one, pocket test here, let's double click on that one. It's the exact same settings, only difference is we're just now increasing that allowance, so we're just making the overcuts a little bit bigger by very, very small amounts. So here we're doing this by negative 0.001, and then we can close out there, and we'll just check that so we can see the solid preview here, and again you can see we're overcutting there. We've got one at negative 0.015 and one at negative 0.02. So if we just switch all of those on, you can see clearly looking at the solid preview that they get bigger every time. And what we've got here is basically a duplicate underneath, okay, and we're going to then profile the part out using 1/4 inch end mill. Just going to apply a few tabs just to hold that in place. Once we've cut that out, we're going to take it off our machine, detab it, making a note of each one of these slots so that we don't get confused with which slot had which allowance. And then we're just going to basically find out which negative allowance has the best comfortable fit, so it's not too loose, neither is it too tight that I can't take it apart. Once I know what that is, we can then apply that to the actual main cutout here. So I'm just going to switch off the slots for editing, press F just to fit that back to our screen. And so to cut the main part out, we've got a pocket toolpath. So this is selecting all the stars. So here I'm just pocketing out everything inside of that star. So we're going to cut down material thickness plus a little bit more just to ensure that I cut that out using a 1/4 inch end mill. And then we could simply preview that. So let's just preview this toolpath so you can see all of the stars cut out there. Very nice. And then once I know what negative allowance is most suitable, we're going to use the profile toolpath, and it turns out that it was a negative 0.005 in this instance. And again, you just want to check the allowance according to your test pieces, and you want to alter this value here for when you come to cut your own version out. Added tabs to that toolpath, and then we could preview that part to see how that looks, and that is your finished, simple yet very effective, cool looking Christmas tree.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, with any slot together project, you really want to make sure that you do test cuts to begin with to check the fit of the two slots. So we've cut the test pieces out, you saw in the software. I've made a note on the actual wood itself, just in pencil, of which allowance was which, and that's just purely just to not confuse myself. So we'll start with the larger allowances first. So we're going to start with the negative 0.02, and we're going to slot that in with the other negative 0.02, and you can see we have quite a loose fit there, not very practical, so we'll try and go a little bit smaller. So now we're going to try the negative 0.015 with that of the matching negative 0.015, and you can see here again it's a little bit loose, so we could maybe go one up from that. So now we're going to try the negative 0.01 with the negative 0.01 of our other piece, test the fit of that, and again it's a little bit loose, it's not too bad, however I think we could maybe go a little bit tighter. So we'll try the last one, which is negative 0.005 along with the negative 0.005 of this one, test the fit, and you can see we have a nice tight fit there. It's not too tight, neither is it too loose, but it's just perfect for what we want with our Christmas tree. So now I'm going to go into the software, alter the profile toolpath to have that negative allowance of negative 0.005, and then we can go ahead and cut the final Christmas tree out, and we'll have a perfect slot together tree. Okay, so now that we've cut our Christmas tree, all we need to do is slot the two parts together. Very simple, so simply take one part, take the top part, pull that down. You can see we've got a nice fit there, and there we have our simple Christmas tree ready to put out with all the trimmings. But what is a Christmas tree without Christmas lights? So there we have our free slot together Christmas tree, and you can download the project files for this tree from the Vectric website. If you do cut your own version, please feel free to share it with us using the hashtag #VectricFreeChristmas so we can see your versions of our free projects.